again. This is Bob Hatton. This is the Encourager. Wow, it's good that you once more that you've joined me. And if you would allow me, I'd like to once more read this so-called proto gospel from Genesis chapter 3 and verse 15. We had a look at it yesterday, but there's still a lot more that we can find from it. In verse 15, Genesis 3:15, it's God who's speaking to the snake. And he says, I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. I will bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. And as we had a look at that verse, we saw that the snake crusher is Jesus, and he's going to come and he's going to kill this snake, this deceiver, the one who has deceived mankind, taking him off onto the wrong tracks. That Jesus would come and he would crush Satan's head, but the snake's poisonous fangs, they would penetrate the heel of the Savior, and it would cost him his life. And we saw that is what happened on the cross. But there's another aspect as we're reading through this. The Bible talks about offspring, and he will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and his offspring. Actually, the word there is seed. And there'll be enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the snake. Now, seed is something that is very small. It's not very remarkable at all. And to get anything from it, you've got to put it in the ground. You've got to bury it out of sight, put it into the dirt, and let it then grow, because it's only then that it starts to bring fruit. And Bethlehem was something like that. Bethlehem was so small and insignificant. It was such a small village. And I think 500 years before the Christmas story, before Mary and Joseph arrived in Bethlehem, there's one of the so-called minor prophets, a guy called Micah. He prophesied, chapter 5, you can read this in the Old Testament, and he said that it's from Bethlehem that let me just please read to you from Micah chapter 5 and verse 2. And it says, but you, O Bethlehem, Ephrathah, who are too little to be among the clans of Judah, for you shall come forth for me one who is to be ruler in Israel, whose coming forth is from old, from ancient days. So Bethlehem, you insignificant little place, there's a seed being put there, and this seed will start to grow. Mary and Joseph get to Bethlehem. This is a special place. And, when the wise men came, we'll see that a little bit later, they wanted to know, where is this special king going to be born? And they said, there's only one place. With no discussion, it's in Bethlehem. And they were expecting that Bethlehem would be the place. And actually, when Jesus comes about, he takes on the title, if you like, Jesus of Nazareth, and his enemies said, well, read in the Bible, there's nothing going to come out of Nazareth. The Messiah will come from Bethlehem. But they don't realize Jesus was born in Bethlehem. And if we look at the ancestry of the lineage of Jesus, we find out that there are many, many seeds in this lineage. People who shouldn't actually have been there, but God put them there. And the whole time, I know that Jesus wasn't, he didn't have any genes from this lineage because he was the Son of God. But still, there were in this lineage, there are so many different seeds being put there, people who shouldn't have been there, but it's that which has been rejected by the world that God chooses and that God puts into his lineage. And this is the seed. This is something that is so insignificant, but is so important. And all throughout the Bible, we see this principle again and again. Abraham. He was He was called the father of many. And God said that in him, all families of the earth were going to be blessed, all clans, all nations, or whatever, wherever we want to translate that. God was going to do something great with him. And the problem was he didn't even have one child. And when Isaac was born, it was obvious that Isaac was the son of promise. The inheritance was going to be on him. But then God said, go and sacrifice him. And as Abraham was going to do that, God stopped him at the last moment. But even so, it was just one little seed that was laid in the ground. But then came his two sons, Jacob and Esau, and then out of these two is mighty descendants of millions and millions of people who can trace their background back to Abraham. You see, you're going to be a great people, and it just starts with one little seed. And now the Father of light, the Father in heaven, he gave his Son as one little seed. And this seed, this offspring of God, there's enmity between him and between the enemy, and he was going to overcome the enemy. But this seed, God put it in the ground. You know, Jesus died on the cross, and we think that's finished, everything is finished, but he was laid in the ground. And Jesus said, unless the grain of wheat dies and is laid in the ground, it won't bring any fruit. Jesus was put in the ground, but he rose again from the dead and became the firstborn of the dead. He was the first fruits of the dead, and he was like a seed. And after this seed, there's now a mighty movement in this earth of people who call themselves Christians, who are following Jesus. Now, in Europe, where I live at the moment, it's not looking too good. But the seed in the ground, this seed is germinating. You don't see the seed germinating, but it is, and it will bring forth fruit. And you know, we are just at a conference recently, and I heard, I think in 1920 in Africa, there were probably less than, I'm not quite sure how many Christians there were there. I think it was 9 million, but today there are 700 million Christians. In 100 years, it has just exploded, because this is what is in the seed. It's something that is unremarkable, something that you don't see as being very special, but put it in the ground and something happens, because there is an inherent power in seed, and in the seed of God there is such power that will change this earth. So don't be discouraged if you're feeling alone today, because if you're a Christian, you've got many brothers and sisters. Well, I'll see you again tomorrow. God bless you. Have a good day. You're Bob Hatton, your encourager.